Okay, so welcome. It's January 10th, 2024, and I'm Sandra Ladley. I'm part of the Karuna Training team. I live up near Berkeley in Northern California most of the time, and the theme of our topic is reimagining resolutions, embracing change for the new year. So I thought I'll say a little bit about Karuna. In Karuna, we like to include always a bit of embodiment and some meditation to help us ground and come into where we are and into our hearts. So I thought we could do that for a bit, have a little bit of grounding and meditation. I'll make some comments on this juicy topic, and we'll have a bit of a contemplation and discussion. Sound like what you signed up for? Okay, why don't I invite you to, if you wish, and first I also just want to honor, why don't we do it standing up? Just to honor the sense of who's come before you, wherever you were standing. Thank you for this land, for me, this quite rainy day. I keep checking my ceiling. I'm watching a little bit out for leaks. We here, it's the Ohlone mainly and Miwok who have been here. And I also honor the people. Karuna is in a lineage of people who've been brave enough to work with waking up to their own pain, to the pain of others, to waking up from sleeping and distraction and everything to kind of come into the truth of our experience that we can hold with each other. So I'm honoring anyone who's been done that over the past several millennia on this earth, who's been brave enough just to simply be present and work with waking up. And now I invite you, just as we're standing, feel your feet on the ground, your feet on the earth, if you're standing, or your butt on your chair if you're sitting. Feel the earth and bring your attention to your jaw and just let yourself relax your jaw. And see if there's anywhere that needs a little unkinking or it's calling for a little attention, a little part of your body that's wanting a little touch, a little rub, a little wiggle, feeling into what your body is calling for right now. And I just invite you to, I'm extending my arms. I'm going to sort of do a slow looking around where I am. Just attuning to this environment, feeling the space around me. Space above me, something we often say in Karuna, is space above us and below us, to the left and the right of us. Space is holding us, in front of us, behind us, above, below, and even space inside of us. And then I'd like to offer a little something I do in some other work that I do too. We're going to do a breath. Imagine a breath like a wave coming up your spine, up the back of your body, and then down the front of your body. And when you come to the end at the exhale, imagine something that brings a smile to your face, just naturally brings a smile to you. So breathing in, breath coming up the back like a wave. Exhale down over your head. And then something that brings a smile. I often think of my sister. Another breath up the back of your spine, washing over you, just coming down. Exhale. One more time. Breath in up the back like a wave. Coming down, out again. Something that brings a smile. All right. So as I said, the title is Reimagining Resolutions, Embracing Change for the New Year. It's January 10th, 2024. Just coming out of the holiday season, so to speak. Used to be the holy days. And I'm really finding it helpful I've always sort of oriented towards the solstitial points, spring and fall equinox, winter and summer solstice. I find it really helpful to help me ground in the seasons. But I've also been working with the in-between points like November 1st, February 1st, the 8-week points. I hadn't really realized how important Halloween, Valentine's Day, those points of connecting with the world that we're in are really helpful for me. And I also just was working with the 12 Holy Nights, which is a time where you can reflect on the previous year or the coming year, or both, which has, it has Christian roots, but also Rudolf Steiner and Waldorf School and all kinds of things. So I view the winter, what we just went through, as sort of a deliberately time out of time, which going way back supposedly had to do with the fact that the lunar year, to make 12 lunar cycles, a whole year of lunar calendar and a whole year of solar calendar, the lunar calendar is 12 days shorter. So it was literally a time out of time, those 12 days. So it's kind of deep in our bones. And you could see it, from the solstice until whenever. So I feel like I'm going through an adjustment right now. And as far as the development of the calendar that we use in our culture, January was named after the god Janus, the Roman god Janus, who was two-faced, and he was looking back and looking forward. That's what January is about. It's sort of review and forward together at the same time. And resolutions have been in our cultures forever. And resolutions, there's a big marketing frenzy. And we know we've all probably had a lot of experience with them not working. So what does work? And so what inspired me to write the article was, damn, if I could just change the thing that is my perpetual headache, that gives me the most pain and creates the most problems in my life. And maybe each of us have something like that. Like I have a friend who feels completely helpless with his smoking, and another who is kind of a hoarder, and that's really getting in the way of their well-being, and another who continually is getting in rages in traffic or reading media, or another who just likes to knock themselves and be in a bubble of I don't know about anything, I'm just hiding out from all of life. So we have these tendencies. And how could we make, you might think of it, they always say start with the easiest thing, but what about instead we could start with the thing that really is creating pain for us and sort of orient toward us? Are you with me that there might be something that you're working with that creates hardship for you, and perhaps maybe in your family and with your friendships, and gets in your world, how you engage or your ability to do things? I don't know. Are you with me on that sort of hypothesis that we each have? Okay. So what if instead of, that you could actually orient toward it and make some incremental progress with this year, instead of thinking that's too big a fish to fry. I really want to take that on and orient it towards making changes in that area. And for me, the thing is my heaviness and what my heaviness is about. It's a barrier. It's limited. And now that I'm older, I could be looking at health complications. Why do I keep myself at least 50 pounds overweight? What is going on there with emotional eating and all kinds of things? So just ticking through some things. So I did some research and what might work, what might really help. So it is said that, first of all, think of it, that thing that you think of it, instead of thinking of it as, oh no, don't do that. Think about something that, I'd really feel into. I really think about it in positive terms. I aspire to be, to do this. I can feel it. I can taste it. I can sense that change that I'd like to make. I'd like to be more of this or more this way. And the more that you can kind of visualize and embody it, it's like an embodied visualization. So for me, feeling myself lighter and more lithe and more agile, less heavy, literally, more flexible, that part of me that's really flexible and able to move through time and space. And I'm not like, ugh, or paralyzed on the couch, that part of me, the more that I can actually really feel that part of me and nourish that part of me. So the first thing is to have something. And they say that it's really helpful to this aspiration that you have to kind of think of it. It's like you're going on record with yourself and reality, not in a big way, but just, and you could even write it on a slip of paper and as an intention, as an aspiration, as a positive aspiration, and that you're going to take it on, even if you're going to make baby steps with this. You don't know where it's going to go, but you're going to let yourself feel that you want to make this change. It's something you really want to do. It's not, and you can get there. You're not worrying how far you're going to get there, but you want to really orient towards making that change. Having a vow, having an aspiration, writing it down, visualizing it, embodying it, feeling it, into it. There's all this research about the fact that willpower doesn't work for the long run. And this famous person at Stanford, Dr. McGonigal says, she calls it won't power. Because we start with this like lashing the, being harsh with ourselves and throwing ourselves into some kind of fierce regime, willpower, grit, like that. And that'll last for a while, but then we have a backlash. And then what the backlash leads to criticizing ourselves. And then, like the whole cycle, and we lose sight of the feeling of this thing that we want to kindle. We're making friends with this change that we want to make in our lives, like a little baby. Like a little baby. And so there are ups and downs. And in the article I cited, I work with my movement mentor is named Karen Roper, and we were having a session together. And she said, well, Sandra, most of these things started from a time when we didn't feel safe. We started to develop these patterns out of not feeling safe. And of course, I'd heard that many times before, but something about the way she said it to me, I went, woo! It's like lightning. When am I feeling? How do I feel safe? When am I not safe? So when I'm about to eat a bag of potato chips, what's going on? What am I feeling? When I want to knock myself out with food, what is happening there? Is it happening in the present? Am I having an emotional reaction to something? I've been working with, I just started working with, some of you may know Kristen Neff's work, Mindful Self-Compassion. She's the researcher in UT Austin, and she's kind of made a whole thing about self-compassion. And with a friend, I'm doing her mindfulness self-compassion workshop, workbook. And so the ups and downs really requires being able to be kind to yourself, which she starts in the very beginning of this book. The three elements of self-compassion are what in Karuna we would call loving kindness toward ourselves, kindness, self-kindness, common humanity, Karuna, compassion towards others, feeling that others around the earth right now are having exactly the same predicament. Some are probably feeling it more intensely and more painfully than you, and others less so. And then thirdly, mindfulness. So the three aspects are Maitri, Karuna, and mindfulness of self-compassion. In other words, self-kindness, connectedness, and attention, bringing attention. So like I just described, when am I not feeling safe? And her first exercise in her book is she said, how would you talk to a friend if they were in a crisis, or like if your friend came to you who's having their thing and they're really in hell about it and they can't believe they just yelled off and they lost an old friendship because they just told off their old friend, or they're, whatever. Something just really, again, they just did their thing again. How would you talk to your friend and be with your friend, a dear friend who is in that, and you're being with them? And this is a lot of where we work in Karuna Training, in compassionate exchange. You'd listen to them with an open heart. You wouldn't judge. You wouldn't give advice. You would hold them and say, I feel your pain. And you know what, here, if you're interested, this is what's coming up for me as you're talking about that. And you might say, hey, I'm noticing something. Are you interested in hearing what I'm noticing? Take it with a grain of salt. But we would, right? We'd be kind to our friend, right? But in contrast, if I think about myself, and I just went through the holidays, and how many chocolates did I eat? And I put on at least 5 pounds. And how many blah, 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 blah. And how do I talk to myself about that? It's the opposite. Incredibly harsh scolding. You're never going to change. You're condemned. You're trapped. You're weak. You're lazy. It's like, my voice is. So if you can start to work with how you talk to yourself, as far as managing the up and downs of this journey of being on a path of an aspiration that you want to change. So really attuning to how you talk to yourself. And you can even say, another thing I'm doing out loud, you can talk to yourself like, Sandra, hey, Sandra, you didn't do too bad. You're okay. You'll get through it. Right? On to the next thing. So as far as the ups and downs, bringing attention to how you talk to yourself, and how is it possible for you to hold yourself with kindness, viewing that as an exploration. I think that is like the foundation of this project of making change. So I'm really working with that because I actually want to change. The ground of self-care and self-compassion. They're going to be ups and downs. Smaller steps are really, there's a lot of research about, not getting out a bullhorn and proclaiming to the world, but just quietly making changes and linking things that you want to make to sort of changing changing up your routines. So for me, like, I don't have to eat on a tray in front of the couch. I can sit at the kitchen table more often. I can take a walk after dinner. I can, like mixing up, aligning with healthier habits and seeing where you can combine things and repeating them. And the smallest steps possible, like really small steps. You don't want to trigger that willpower should voice, small steps, like sneak them in incrementally. Another aspect that's really important is being in community of people who you can speak frankly with about what you're working, really tell the truth, really speak candidly, because I don't know if I have so much shame about myself. I don't know about you, but you've got to give it some oxygen and speak the truth. The hiding is not great. The more you can come out, with what you're working with. And so, of course, recovery programs and, have shown over and over again that they, being able to speak frankly, about where you are on the journey is so helpful with other people working with the same struggles. And in Karuna, we really cultivate a community of people who are honest about what's happening with them, the real truth. Those are just a few things, and those are the things that I mostly mentioned in the article. So I'm going to tick through this again, but a little bit in a 10-point way that actually came from the Farmer's Almanac. The old Farmer's Almanac, but it's very much what I just said, but in a quick little 10-point thing. So number 1, making a resolution. Word it positively. Not as I'm not going to, but more, what I'm oriented towards, the positive change. Setting aside time to pause and reflect on it, like the writing it down, sort of going on record with yourself, kind of like taking a little vow with you. Keeping it simple. Keep it really simple. Light touch. This sense of the feeling into it, the embodied visualization or the feelization. This is something that you're aspiring to do because you're gonna feel better. What it is that's weighing you down and is paining you. You're wanting to lessen your suffering and the suffering that this may be creating. So feeling into less harm, lighter, perhaps some joy. Who said joy in the beginning? Perhaps a little joy, more possibilities of joy and openness. 5th point, we're going to make it specific and measurable. So That can be really helpful to think about. For me, it might be I'd like to go down a size by X or something like that. Achievable, something specific, measurable, and achievable. I'd like to experience myself yelling, less yelling, when I'm driving, I'm just having an open attitude. I didn't go off, less going off, specific and measurable. Identify what might get in the way, like the obstacles. What are going to be the things that are going to throw you off? They're part of the path, the danger zones. In 12-step, they say HALT, the acronym, don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, HALT. So there are things that might throw you into falling off your horse. So I bet you already know the things that may be triggers for you going off, falling off or slipping. And what are the things that would keep that from lessen the likelihood of that happening? So for me, like eating regular meals, drinking water, not having cookies and licorice in my house, just using myself as a practical example. But you know what I mean? Like the things that will take the danger zones, lessen your exposure to the dangers. Setting a time frame can be helpful. By this time next year, I hope, and make it very achievable. Or maybe by April, or even, you could even do it monthly, something really small. Or using with these 8 phases of the years, break it down. It can be helpful to have an incentive, but that can also be problematic. But so, for example, I have my 50th high school reunion. I'm outing my age. I'm having my 50th high school reunion in October. I'm planning to go to it. I'm not expecting to be a size 8, but I might go down a size or 2 and feel a little more agile and light and springy and flexible. Yeah, not like heavy, exhausted for Sandra. Right. That could work. So maybe there's an incentive, a family situation, an event, a job, a career, a creative thing you want to do. There's something that is calling you, that can help call you and align you with making this change. Number 9, change up your routine, like I already said. And number 10, slips are part of it. Don't dwell on them. This is where the self-compassion, slips are part of the journey, the up and down. Absolutely include the slips. And personally, as we train in the Dharma and in Karuna, there can be more and even more information from the slips than by our big successes. You could even, I don't want to say celebrate the slips, but look to the slips as teachers as much as their information, as Melissa would say. They're just information. They're more information for the journey. Okay, so that's my talking part. How about we do a little contemplation and then have a discussion? And I'm just going to ask you, we're going to create a little space for what your aspiration might be. And you could, if you want to jot down, maybe just first, let's just close our eyes and feel into it. Put down your papers. The exam's over. So can you orient towards, can you feel inside of yourself? Can you can almost touch it, like this little baby of a change that you'd really like to make in your life. It's just calling you. You can feel it. What is it? It's a step you want to take. It's very meaningful and you can sense it. You can almost taste it. And you really have an aspiration to make this change in your life. What would that be? Can you start to see the sort of small steps you might take? Can you start to see any kind of timeline? Is there anything incenting you that will help you? It's calling you forward. What's going to get in the way? What are the obstacles? What's going to be hard? You already know you're going to fall into some traps and things. What's gonna be hard? I know for myself, I can't, there's part of me that really doesn't believe I can change. So that's an obstacle. I want to really work with that. And in your environment, your mind, your environment, emotionally, in your community, what's gonna get in the way? Could be friends even get in the way. And what's going to help you work with those things on the level of body, speech, and mind? Those obstacles that you already know are going to count. What resources can you call on as aids and allies? And what's going to help you hold this with loving kindness towards yourself so that you can kind of, I talked about safety, so that you can kind of stay with it, less scolding, more encouraging, more love towards yourself. What's going to help with that? And then finally, why bother? In the article, I said, this is 2024. This is going to be a doozy of a year. Times are hard and getting harder. And I could just, get up to 300 pounds, sure. But, I want to be in good health for hard times. I want to be able to take care of myself. I want to be able to be available to other people. I want to be able to be present and think clearly and stay open in these times that we're sharing together. Thich Nhat Hanh talked about, may he rest in peace, being the person on the boat when they were crossing from Vietnam in stormy seas. If there was just one person who could just sort of stay sane and stable in the midst of people being so afraid and going crazy in their own ways, one person could, they would make it. So why bother? I want to give you a minute. Maybe there's something that's coming to you to write for a minute. You could write anything down, jot anything down that's coming to you.